Let's start back during the Cold War, when military technology was advancing at a staggering rate and the world seemed to be teetering on the brink of disaster. And in this context, the US and the Soviet Union were competing not only in the space race, but also in the race for naval supremacy. Hence, with such a global rivalry and tension, the USS Plainview was born, a ship that promised to revolutionize naval warfare. The USS Plainview was not an ordinary warship, rather it was a high-tech experiment, equipped with hydrofoils. The Plainview had the unique ability to fly above the water, reducing drag and allowing it to reach speeds previously only dreamt of. But as with many groundbreaking innovations, the journey of the USS Plainview was fraught with challenges that eventually led to its obscurity. So, was the USS Plainview a failure, or was it a crucial piece in the evolution of naval warfare? Join us to find out, as today we uncover the true story of the ship that could fly. I'm your host Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. This video is brought to you by Delete Me. Imagine all your personal information, name, address, phone number, being publicly exposed and without your consent. Well, unfortunately, this is the reality for over 100 million Americans due to a recent massive data breach, and if this concerns you, you're not alone. Threats like these are growing daily, so protecting your online data is more crucial than ever. That's where our sponsor, Delete Me, comes in. Delete Me helps you remove your personal information from data broker databases, which otherwise sell your information to anyone willing to pay even just a few dollars for it. This privacy incident doesn't just expose you to identity theft, it puts you at risk of personal attack based on your political views or even your profession. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here, as we've all heard stories of people being harassed or even scammed because their information is readily available online. So what can you do about all of this? Well, Delete Me is the solution. It's a service that deletes your personal information, like names, addresses, and phone numbers, from the sites where data brokers store it. And the best part of all, Delete Me doesn't just remove your data once, it keeps monitoring these sites to make sure your information doesn't resurface. This has helped me so much. As a content creator, I need to be extra careful with the personal information I share online. Thanks to Delete Me, I've removed listings of old addresses and other personal data from over 100 sites I didn't even previously know existed. Now, I feel much safer knowing that my information is being protected. So get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/Socash and use promo code Socash at checkout. The story of the USS Plainview cannot be fully grasped without understanding the context of the era in which it was created. So let's go ahead and start back at the beginning. During the Cold War, both nations competed for nuclear armament, technological advancements, and military dominance. And then, of course, there was the space race, which is perhaps the most famous example. Anyhow, the competition also extended to the seas, where Soviet submarines, particularly those of the Alpha class, posed a significant threat due to their ability to reach up to 40 knots, making them difficult to detect or pursue. So, in response to this threat, the US Navy sought solutions to enhance its anti-submarine warfare capabilities. In this context of urgency and necessity, the USS Plainview was born. The idea was simple, yet ambitious, to build a ship that could fly above the water, reducing drag and allowing for unprecedented speed and maneuverability. This ship was not just an ordinary vessel in the US naval fleet. Rather, it was a fusion of naval and aerospace engineering. The fundamental principle behind the USS Plainview was using hydrofoils, a technology that allowed the ship to fly above the water. So let's take a moment to have a look at how this worked. The concept is similar to that of an airplane, but applied underwater. The hydrofoils act like airplane wings, generating lift when the ship reaches a certain speed. This elevates the ship's hull above the water, reducing drag and allowing incredible speeds as well as stability. In 1960, the Navy began soliciting proposals for constructing a new hydrofoil capable of reaching speeds of 40 knots, or potentially reaching up to 90 knots. The path to realizing this project was complicated, as the companies competing for the contract, including the Puget Sound Sound Bridge and Dry Dock Company faced significant technological and financial challenges. Even so, eventually the Navy contracted Lockheed Shipbuilding and Construction Company in collaboration with General Electric, the Puget Sound Bridge and Dry Dock Company, and together they began to construct the most interesting ship in the world, with the first pieces being laid down in 1964. Lockheed, known for its advances in aviation, applied its aeronautical expertise to shipbuilding, whereas General Electric contributed its experience in engines and propulsion systems, while Puget Sound provided the necessary naval infrastructure and knowledge to build the ship. Hydrofoil technology was not new. Several nations had already explored it, including earlier experiments by Alexander Graham Bell and developments during World War II. However, the Plainview would be the largest and most advanced hydrofoil for its time, with a length of 220 feet and a displacement of 300 tons. Its structure was made of aluminum, a choice that allowed for weight reduction and improved efficiency. This material, commonly used in aviation, gave the ship unprecedented lightness as well as strength. The Plainview was large, lightweight, and highly technological, equipped with two 600-horsepower diesel engines and two LM-1500 jet engines derived from those used in Phantom jets. It could reach remarkable speeds for its size. These engines provided the power needed to lift the ship onto its hydrofoils, thus reducing water resistance and allowing it to reach speeds of up to 50 knots. But the hydrofoils themselves also pushed the boundaries of what had previously been known in this technology. Made of high-strength steel, measuring 26 feet wide, and featuring a special hydrodynamic design, these components were controlled similarly to an airplane's flaps and tail surfaces. When the hydrofoils were lowered, they provided the necessary lift to raise the ship's hull above the water surface, enabling fast and stable navigation even through the roughest of seas. But it gets better. The Plainview was also equipped with aviation-type autopilot and advanced sensors that monitored height above the sea's surface. This system also allowed for precision and automatic navigation, which was vital for maintaining the ship's stability at high speeds. And the list goes on. For example, the world's largest titanium propellers were actually mounted to the central hydrofoils. Now, the interior of the ship also reflected its experimental and advanced nature. Accommodating a crew of 20, including 4 officers, the ship was designated for extended test and development missions. The onboard amenities, such as a spacious kitchen and a well-equipped rest area, ensured the crew could operate efficiently during long periods at sea. Without a doubt, the design and technology of the USS Plainview made it a unique ship, opening up new possibilities for naval engineering. But would this even be enough to ensure success? Well, as you'll see in a moment, the road ahead was filled with challenges, and what happens next is as unexpected as it is intriguing. After its completion in March of 1969, the Plainview was assigned to the Navy's Ship Research and Development Center in Washington, D.C. There, the ship became the focal point of an extensive program of testing and experimentation, which was carried out by the Special Hydrofoil Test Unit. These tests covered speed, maneuverability, and stability in rough waters, aiming to validate its use in operational and tactical roles. Additionally, the Plainview served as a testing platform for experimental equipment and armaments, including torpedoes and combat tactics not available to other ships. And finally, the ship excelled in reconnaissance missions and anti-submarine tactics, leveraging its speed and maneuverability to create new strategies against Soviet submarines. However, the technological complexity of the hydrofoils meant they required specialized and constant maintenance, which was far more demanding than conventional warships. Due to this, the operational costs were excessively high, and in many cases limited the ship's availability for extended missions. Additionally, the structural vulnerability of hydrofoils were another limiting factor. Their lightweight design, necessary for achieving high speeds, made them more susceptible to damage in combat or even just during extreme maneuvers. The hydrofoils also had limitations in terms of load capacity, unable to take up the amount of personnel or armaments available to more conventional ships, meaning the Plainview was not attractive for more conventional missions, which required heavy masses and sustained transportation. In summary, the USS Plainview offered a bold vision for the future of naval warfare, but its high maintenance cost, technical complexity and structural vulnerability became insurmountable obstacles. Due to worker strikes, the ship's construction was delayed by nearly 4 years, and the initial budget of $12 million was significantly exceeded, reaching about $21 million. These setbacks increased pressure on the Navy, which ultimately decided to accept the ship and address the problems internally without fully perfecting it. During its testing period, the Plainview accumulated 268 hours of hydrofoil navigation, but was never used for its full potential due to technological as well as operational limitations. Persistent issues with propulsion systems and automatic controls made its performance less reliable than expected. So, in 1978, after nearly a decade of testing and experimental operations, the U.S. Navy decided to retire the ship altogether, due to budget cuts, as well as a shift in military priorities. With that being said, many imagined that the Plainview would end up in a museum as an example of amazing technology, when the reality was quite different. Once decommissioned, it was sold to a company in California. After removing its engines and hydrofoils for preservation by the Navy, the company attempted to tow the ship south, but was unsuccessful. Rather, ultimately, the Plainview was just abandoned in Hungary Harbor on the Columbia River. The ship remained there, partially submerged and exposed to the elements. What was once a marvel of engineering is now in decay, and it set on fast, with deterioration happening rapidly. Not to mention many of its parts were dismantled or looted. So today the ship just lays on the riverbank, significantly submerged due to high tide, whereas during low tide, the river water drains out, allowing people to have a peek at what's inside. Much of its superstructure has been dismantled, but its mast still stands. The hydraulic arm that once controlled the hydrofoils are still visible as well. Though the hydrofoils themselves are gone, the rear components that once housed the engine room sits higher on the riverbank and are almost dry during low tide, meaning that, at least to a degree, this part of the ship is best preserved. Although the USS Plainview faced numerous challenges during its development and operation, its impact and legacy continue to influence the design and construction of successful future hydrofoils. For example, the USS Plainview directly influenced the Pegasus class, a series of hydrofoils used by the US Navy from 1977 to 1993. These smaller, more specialized vessels avoided many of the technical setbacks that plagued the Plainview. Thanks to these initial tests and development, the designers of the Pegasus class improved the stability and maneuverability of hydrofoils, making them an efficient tool in coastal and anti-submarine operations. A demonstration of this has been the interception of smugglers in the Caribbean, which demonstrated the potential for hydrofoils in fast, tactical missions. Moreover, Boeing's jetfoils, which are commercial passenger hydrofoils, also benefited from the technological advancements of the USS Plainview. That's right, by applying design principles and technological solutions during the program, Boeing created a series of hydrofoils that offered fast and comfortable travel on commercial routes. These jetfoils operated with great success in Asia, particularly out of Hong Kong, proving that what was learned from the Plainview could be adapted and refined for civilian applications. Though we should point out that some of this technology was inspired by the HMCS Brass d'Or, an experimental hydrofoil of the Royal Canadian Navy, developed as a contemporary to the USS Plainview. Both programs shared knowledge and technology that were applied in the design or operation of both ships. And although the Canadian hydrofoil demonstrated the viability in military operations, it was ultimately also canceled due to impracticality. Before wrapping up here today, I want to rewind the clock back even further, before the Plainview, when the US Navy was already exploring the idea of hydrofoil technology with the USS High Point. This ship, launched in 1962, was the Navy's first hydrofoil patrol craft, developed in collaboration with Boeing alongside other parties. Its mission was similar to the Plainview, to protect the coast of the United States against enemy submarines. Throughout its service, it underwent multiple modifications to improve its performance. However, like the Plainview, issues with the propulsion system and technological complexity proved to be significant obstacles, eventually contributing to its retirement and abandonment as well. After its decommissioning in 1984, the High Point was sold to private owners, but like the Plainview, it ended up abandoned and is just rotting away in a port to this very day. Their stories are closely linked by the technology they shared, as well as the similar fate that they both encountered. And with that, I thank you all very much for watching. Until next time, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.